Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose you?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and...
I'm coming in here. This movie, man, it's so weird that it won the poll against, like, Kingdom of Heaven and stuff. Like,
I'm
fine
the
with
contrarian. I love this movie.
I liked it. I'm
gonna go.
We'll get into it. If it wasn't for
Travis called too. We just gotta.
Okay, good. If it wasn't for, we'll get into it obviously, but if it wasn't for the technical limitations and like somewhat amateur style that it was filmed, it would have been like another star and a half probably for me, because it's like I like the type of movie it is. I just like struggled with like the quality, I guess, of like the actual filmmaking.
It's frustrating. Sorry, my headphone is falling apart. This is just indicative of my whole entire life.
This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast.
It's what you guys come for.
If you're coming in right, this is episode 129.
Yeah, it's episode 1 for me, baby.
We have our good ones and we have our bad ones. We're not going to be 100% every time. Like, we're falling apart a little bit.
I finished this movie about 40 minutes ago, but I don't know, and I'm mad. I want to get us back on form, okay? But we have in the past, we've had a little bit more structure to our episodes.
Oh,
so I want us to like try to rein it in a little bit, maybe.
Well, we started off horribly, if that's what we're trying to do.
That's right. Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'm resetting. You're just gonna cut everything.
What's this? No, we're too deep. I'm not cutting nothing now. What's the structure? Are you talking? So,
well, we do our intro
where
we're like, hey, Cold Cinemologist.
Okay.
Our normal banter. What? Basically this.
Banter. I got some banter.
This here now is what we consider intro.
If you're a true follower, a true cultist of the Cult of Cinema Knowledge, then you know that this month has been Medieval Month.
There you go.
And so we watched the ultimate medieval movie last week, Shrek. This week was Valhalla Rising, is the movie that we are discussing today.
Which was picked by you fine folks out there in podcast land.
Yes, I appreciate that.
You guys voted for it, which is, like Levi was saying earlier, surprising, but cool.
It's cool because I actually voted for it because I thought it would be the underdog. I thought
Have you ever seen it?
I'd always thought I'd seen like the end. But it turns out, having just watched it now, I'd seen like the first 25 minutes. I haven't seen past that, but I've seen the whole beginning before. But the part where he chokes out the guy breaks the dude's neck and everything, and then it's like he escapes his slavers. That's like as far as I got the first time. So this was all fairly new to me. But so Valhalla Rising. Is it my week to do the synopsis?
And now there we go. This is back to form.
I am capable of form.
We both failed though because I can't remember. So I'm usually pretty good at remembering who has to do their synopsis.
Yeah.
And
that's okay.
This week I completely don't remember. I think it was you though. I think because I did Shrek maybe. But
I
really
don't remember. We've been fumbling through a team. So anyway, I'll give it to you real quick. So. Valhalla Rising follows One Eye. This takes place in like Viking times, if you will, somewhere in Scandinavia or somewhere up in there. And One Eye is a slave with, you guessed it, one eye, and he's mute, and he's like a fighter. And his owners like fight him, and they like watch, and they they do their nobleman thing, not nobleman, but chieftain rather. Vikings, right?
Chieftain, yeah.
And so eventually he sells them off to these other guys along with this kid who kind of goes along with them, and then he finally escapes and kills these guys. But the kid since the kid wasn't really a slave, I don't think. Maybe he was. I don't know. He was kind of like a helper boy / slave. Either way.
Yeah, sure.
He escapes and he doesn't kill the kid because he's a kid, but also the kid's kind of been the only one to show him any slight kindness. they come across this group of Christian missionaries or just Christian men in general on some sort of pilgrimage, and the boy speaks for One Eye and basically lies and is like, yeah, we're Christians, because they see all the crosses everywhere and the pile of burning bodies, and they're like, yeah, we're totally Christians. And so they're kind of like, I don't think you are, but whatever, you guys can join us, because the one guy in the group is like, this guy, I've heard of this One Eye, he's a powerful warrior, so he can help us. So they're like, great, we're going to go to Jerusalem and take back the fucking Holy Land. Let's get on a boat and go, boys. They get on a boat, and they're stuck in the fog for God knows how long, but they're like starving to death practically, so it must be a while. And One Eye's drinking the fucking water, and they're like, you're crazy. And then eventually it turns out he drinks it again, and they're like, what? And then it turns out it's fresh water, and they're upstream. They're not in the ocean anymore, and they're totally lost down some river. But the main, I forget the dude's name because they don't, but the main Christian guy, he was like, oh, it's cool. This is the new Jerusalem. This is our new kingdom. We're going to come in, but slowly there's all these bad omens, and the men are like, oh, it's the evil fog. So they like try to kill the boy, and One Eye kills them. But it goes along, and then eventually the Christian guy is like, anyone that doesn't believe in me is a blasphemer, and like he kills, he stabs his one buddy, and One Eye and the boy are like, no, this is hell. Let's get out of here. And so they just start hoofing it and going. And I'm trying to remember how it ends.
I mean, that's essentially it. So the boy knows that that this One Eye is going to basically save his life, essentially, or at least let him get back home.
Yeah, the survivors
by taking him to the other end of the sea,
him.
the other end of this island.
Okay, I remember with the natives and everything.
To get the ocean, and then the natives of the land they basically, it's symbolic, and it's kind of like there's some subtext, and it's like they kill him to save the boy, basically. But it's like One Eye's like, he's super mythical, so it's kind of cool. He just like is in the mist now. I don't know. He's not really dead, but he is dead. His physical form. And so now he's gone to Valhalla, and so it's like he's just.
That's that's the gist. They show up and bludgeon him. But obviously, if you can tell, I mean, if you watch the movie, which I am sure you have if you're listening to this. If not, it's all very very surreal, very like symbolic feeling. Everything is like
atmospheric.
It's not like super literal everything, or if you took it super literal, then it's just like, oh, they went and they got lost and then they got beat up and now everyone's dead except for the kid, who is just taken away by the natives or whatever. But
right, exactly.
That's not what it's going for. It's more of like Northman light in a way.
But I actually
Northman and Aguirre.
I know, yeah, right. And dude, Aguirre is like definitely the heart of this.
Which is so weird, because this is like beat for beat, a lot of it is like Aguirre, like other than like they took the part of Aguirre that like the Christian guy instead of like the power hungry like colonizer, but it's still tied up obviously in that era historically with like the Crusades and shit. But it's like they just throw it more on like more of a religious cultural aspect, and are like, oh, we're taming this land. This is the new Holy Land. But it's like they're literally lost up a river. They literally have the guy, like it's the same kind of vibes. Like, and I think it's hilarious because it's like, since we watched Aguirre a couple weeks back, Aguirre was barely on my radar. And I'm so glad I've watched it now. It's a great movie, but it's fairly obscure by like modern standards, unless you're like a film nerd. But it's just so funny that this movie is so like, it owes so much to Aguirre. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Nicholas Winding Refn was like, I want to do one of those, but with Vikings. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, no. What it was, the movie that he quoted. I was reading an interview with him. It was actually El Topo, dude.
I was actually gonna say, I was thinking about El Topo. Nice.
El Topo was his main influence.
I got a little El Topo vibes.
I don't even know if Aguirre was on his mind necessarily, but Aguirre had to have been, because he.
Well, they're the same type of movie. It's like this surreal, slightly holy.
Buddy, Wyndon Refn, Nicholas Wyndon Refn. he did the atmosphere and the character design, and then Roy Jacobson, he was the dude that probably did the Aguirre research. He did a lot of the heavy, cultural, maybe what do you even call that? But like the historical accuracy.
Oh, sure.
If you will.
Yeah.
So he was the one that focused on that during production. So I have a strong feeling it was like maybe Roy Jacobson that like totally gave like the Aguirre like.
I would
behind the whole
eat.
thing,
Yeah,
but-
I'd eat my shoes if one of the producer or the director did not see Aguirre
Didn't see
before
it.
this. Like, there's no
Right,
like
right.
they
Or-
didn't
yeah,
they didn't
or,
just
like-
channel Herzog. Like this is definitely
No.
there's too much in common with Aguirre for
Right.
it to be a coincidence. But it is that type of movie. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of movies that
right.
fall
You
under the
can't-
specific
Yeah.
of what this does. You know what I
I mean, following any like religious, colonizer,
this weird.
you're bound to like come up into these like tropes and into these
Yeah,
like
and
these
the, like-
character motives, that where it's like they're and it's always cool because you get like the one guy that's like who speaks the most about it being like his destiny and his like and just his right, and then they always crumble and fall. And so it's fascinating, and I love it. And this was a movie I saw before I saw Drive, and so I didn't know they were the same guys. And so when I saw Drive, I was like, holy shit, this movie's like Drive. I think Drive is an amazing film, and I love it.
I
And
want
then
to see
went
it
back
again.
through his,
Pretty bad.
I went back through his catalog, and I didn't go through the Pusher series, which I really want to though now, because we talked about we watched one of his movies.
I've
right?
always I've always
No, we
been
didn't,
like
did we?
tangentially aware of Pusher, and it's like I loved Bronson. I thought Drive.
That's what it was. We
like-
didn't watch Bronson, dude. I swear
No,
to
we
God,
didn't watch any of them. This is the first. I think a
Okay,
couple
this
have
is
made
the
it
first-
onto
we
the
just-
polls though. I'd
we
watch
just
Drive.
talked
We
about-
should put Drive
we've-
on one of them in the future, but
We've talked about him a lot, but anyways, yeah. So Drive is sick, but this fills Bronson. He did Bronson before this movie, and Bronson feels like they feel almost like a prequel, or like it's like like One Eye is like Bronson's great grandfather or something that is
that's
like
the
in his
heart
lineage,
of
'cause
them, right?
that like I for one like this is kind of like this is my like Expendables, like this is the kind of movie where I'm like, this is my kind of action movie where
You
it's
just gotta
like,
put all the big your version of like the big A cast. It's just like Paul Dano
Right.
and like like all these guys. It's like
Yeah.
Bill
Well, it's like-
Murray's the fucking guy's like
But
this
I'm-
is our Christian land.
well, I'm more thinking, oh god, that would be, dude, that'd be amazing, dude. Like Wes Anderson needs to make like an Aguirre style movie. That'd be so cool.
Can you imagine?
But
That would be cool.
no, but I more mean like this is like my man cave movie. This is the dude.
Sure,
this is like
yeah.
hyper masculinity. That's like I'm just like, but I enjoy it. Like that's what I enjoyed about Northman was like it's so
Yeah.
it's male centric, but it's like I mean, and Northman tells a little more of a fairy tale than this movie, but it's still I like that.
I see what
like
you're
that, just,
saying.
like, the silent type that's violent. Like,
It is.
yeah,
It's
that's
like
cool.
it doesn't necessarily like glorify, but it just shows the like like big, violent bundle of manly rage that
Right, well,
is
and that-
Mads
I love-
Mikkelsen in this, and
Yes, and Mads, dude, he's such a good actor, and like he does such a good job in this movie, and like I like the like, it's silly. He's like Batman, He's just like it's the mythos of him it exists so much higher. Like I love when he starts. The kid is like I can speak for him,
Yeah.
and he starts speaking through him, and like all he is just looking, and it's like I'm like, oh fuck, it's like that's such a cool scene.
yeah.
For
I
this
like
movie,
I like that he
but,
basically becomes like sized or whatever the word is, but he like basically becomes this like godlike. They're like, oh, he's a curse, he's an omen, and he like, but it's. I don't know enough about Norse mythology to make the connections, but it's just like it seems to me that he was definitely trying to be like Odin in some way because it's like the one eye. Odin's got one eye, and
yeah,
it's like
and that's
with
yeah,
the
right.
crows and like his fucking not talking, and the boy's like, oh, so it's like he almost is like this becomes this like godlike figure to the people who dissent from Christianity near the end. They're like, what's he say about me? He says, you're gonna die,
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're lying.
Yeah.
He's lying, and then he dies.
Right. Yeah.
They all die.
I mean, I think that's kind of right.
Yeah,
The boy just took a gamble, and I think that paid off. But I wanted to say you can't speak about this movie without comparing it to Northman. I feel like that's a fair. They're a fair
and
comparison.
Geary's still fresh in my mind, so those are the two. Those
Right.
are the two big ones, and I guess El
And,
Topo
yeah.
out there. But
Well, I know now. I mean,
Yeah.
even now, like I didn't really think about El Topo until I read that, and I was like, oh fuck. I mean, yeah, it's right there.
I forget
It's-
what scene it
totally.
is, but there is one scene that I specifically made me
the
think of
kid's
El
too
Topo.
clothed in this movie, so
I think I was literally, I was like, man, I like these like droney, surrealist, like somewhat psychedelic, like like religious quests into madness. And I was like, I want to make one of those, but a Western. And then I was like, oh, but that's just El Topo. That's how I made the connection. It's just the same type of movie, same genre,
Right.
But Western.
But Northman. So I'm really bummed because it's like watching this again because I saw this, like I said, years and years ago. I probably saw this in I think I probably saw this in like 2009.
Yeah.
when it came out.
When I first saw the first part of it was like right after it came out. It was like at John's house or something.
Yeah, right. And so, anyways, I just wish that the pacing in this movie is spot on. I mean, it's like for me personally, I love it. Like it had the right amount of momentum, and I wish that Northman borrowed a little bit from this because I feel like Northman was weird in its pacing. There were times when it's like I don't know, man. Northman is always one where like the more I think about it, the more I'm like I like it, but I feel like there's something missing. And I know it's because I came into it with like the highest expectations, and I was just kind of like they weren't really met, I mean they kind of were, but it's like I just more was like, oh, okay, that's great.
I think
But
the
I'm kinda
Northman.
bummed. I wish it was.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying because it's like we talked about this a little bit when we talked about the Northman, but it's just like I think the Northman is a way better movie than Valhalla Rising. I think, but we talked about like if it would have leaned into the more weird surreal stuff, that was the best part of the Northman. But then if you just do that, you get the Green Knight, which is better than both of them. Like,
I mean that's true. Yeah, there.
but
there you
it's
go.
medieval instead of Vikings. But still, it's more of the weird, surreal kind of like pace. But I see what you're saying about the Northman because this movie, this type of movie that is very like there's little dialogue, there's little plot, there's very little character development, has to rely on its atmosphere and its kind of visuals and just kind of to be more like cinematic in that way and not like a traditional storytelling way. Which this movie does, and I'm glad that like this kind of movie has to be shorter. Like this movie is a cool 91 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, right. It's gotta
And
be.
that's perfect because it's like it is quote unquote slower paced, but it's well paced. Like this movie is, I feel like has a much better pace,
one of the
more
great-
consistent pace anyway than Northman for sure.
Right. That's consistency. I think that's
It is.
that's
Well, this
that's
one,
the key
it
word there.
definitely, it's always kind of like, it's always moving forward. It's always trance-like. It's always dream-like. But there's always like kind of a change of scenery. There's always like a little bit of like despair, a little bit of like tension and like threat of violence.
Right. That's the big. It's like it. I mean, I think it credits to like the score that it has a very nice droning, that kind of like repetitive, percussion that just it and it's kind of almost sometimes like industrial techno mixed in, where it kind of seems out of place but like works really well. It's kind of like synth pop mixed with that like drony chant, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And that's where I feel like Drive is.
Yeah.
Drive is really the one that.
See, I need to see Drive again because it's like something about Nicholas Winding Refn or Rife or however you say his name. I am always rooting for him because I like his movies, but they never quite hit the mark for me. Because it's like I saw Drive right when it came out and everyone was obsessed with it, so I thought it was overrated. But I want to see it again because I did like a lot about it. I really liked Only God Forgives. It's like not that good, but there is something about it, right?
Well, it's got like it feels like a Korean, like a Korean drama or something.
And it's like it's brutal,
not
but
Korean
like
drama,
pacing.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's all like it's like just crime and like horrible fucking underside of Bangkok, and it's like, and Ryan Gosling being a fucking badass with this. Anyway, that movie's kind of cool, but it's like, and I really want to see Neon Demon. Maybe we should watch that next month.
I
Put it on
know
there, 'cause
that.
Neon
I think
Demon,
it should
I
be
want to
'cause
see.
I haven't seen it yet, and the same thing, dude. Every time I go to watch it, I'm like, I don't know. I watch something different.
Well, he's got a
I
he's got
really
a
should
vibe,
do.
and you do kind of gotta be, I don't know, like, because Bronson feels a little different, but it's hard to say. But this movie, I don't know. I'm just really bummed because it's like, I really wanted to like this movie more. I only gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd, which is like I think it's pretty good. I think
saw that.
it would have been a 3.5 probably for me, but it's like I think Northman they're just so fresh in my mind. Northman does a lot of the same things better, and then I just watched Aguirre, which I think is just like does a lot of the same things better. So this felt like, oh, okay, this is like a like a low budget kind of passion project that's like Viking for it, like I'm for, and this is obviously before the Northman, and so it's like cool, and that's all fine, but the technical, I wouldn't say problems. They're not necessarily problems, but like limitations, I guess.
Right.
Were
I wouldn't even say
hard for
limitations.
me.
I would say that it was their aesthetic. I think they chose to do it that way because it was in vogue. That was a very popular, like, dude, to the early, like 2006 to like 2010,
maybe.
digital blood and digital, like that really just coming through, and like they probably shot like a really basic, they shot it like because I gotta double check. It seemed digital to me,
Oh, yeah.
and then they heavily color corrected it.
Oh yeah, this movie's digital as fuck, and I struggle with that
yeah.
because it takes place 100% in nature, but it's not doesn't feel like it's trying to say anything about like the juxtaposition of like, oh, our technical age and this like also the rawness of man and nature. They feel to clash with one another and not in a way that like is actually purposeful and like has a message.
It's shot on a red, so yeah, that's funny. But
Because this
I
is
know what you
definitely the early days of when digital started looking actually pretty good. Because it's like
that's the thing. It looks good, but it's so funny to be like, you can tell
compared
it's digital.
to now, yeah, definitely.
I know what you're saying. There's like a depth to it, and it's like when you shoot, and I think like another stylistic choice they went through is to make it seem hazy, like
Oh, it was like super.
There's probably it's supposed to be like hell, like it's supposed to be a walk through some
and that's
sort
mostly
of like,
fine, but it's just like
it's underworld plane, that's not human or that's not like natural.
I don't know, man. I feel like it's like I'll give them the benefit of the doubt with you, but it does feel like every time like it looked good, it was by accident because you can just shoot beautiful landscapes and get lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
they always look good, but sometimes this movie just looked
the framing.
bad.
The framing was beautiful though, and there were a lot of times where I'm just like, oh man, they would like hold
the
on
static
a shot,
shots, yeah, for sure.
and yeah, they would hold on a shot, and it's like I'm like, oh man, I mean it is cinematic, but I know exactly what you mean. This is like an independent film. I mean it is not just
sure.
by its nature, but like it was shot independently.
Well, we can get into it right now. So I was watching. I'm like, man, this seems like something I would make out of high school and with a low fucking budget. And so I was like, dude, this movie's probably, I was like, oh, you know what? Every time I saw the digital blood or I noticed the really artifacting of the digital camera or like how there's no fucking depth of the shadows and things like that, I was like, oh, okay, this is obviously limitations. And obviously we said in the past, limitations breed like creativity because you have to work within certain things, And I was like, you know what? They probably had like $100,000 budget, $500,000 budget max.
I thought $1 million the whole time.
That's what I was like, anything under $1 million. And it's like it's just guys wandering around in outside in the wilderness, which costs nothing. There's no sets. Everything's sticks and primitive. In costumes that look fine. It's mostly just like leather and maybe some little things. And so that's all cool. Even the stuff where they're on the boat is all fogged out and they're just like sitting in a harbor, which is all cool until I'm like, I have to know the budget, right? So I looked it up and this is still not a big budget.
No, right. This is still an independent. I mean, that's the whole thing. We're not
you're
maligning.
the budget. Yeah, you're the budget guy.
I know. I usually do. Yeah, Money Minute, but But the money minute right now is it, dude. It was like 5.7 million.
Yeah.
That is wildly low, but so much more money than I expected for this, dude. I
So
agree
much
with you 100%. Like I'm like, where did that money go? Was it all distribution? Even though
that's the
I didn't
thing.
hear about this movie in theaters, so it's like.
Yeah, true.
I don't know where. I can't even. I'm trying to remember who, if it was friend group or my dad or someone brought this up to me to my attention, and I like. Maybe God. I might have even seen Bronson before, but I'm pretty sure I saw this.
I feel like
I
I definitely saw Bronson
remember.
first, but it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, it's the same director, right? After Drive, because then I was like, what's his filmography? And then I was like, oh, it's that guy.
I'm not.
But
I don't know.
But
Dude,
man, I just like
5.7. Where did it go? I'm really curious.
That's the thing. It's like you would think in your brain, worth a lot of things, you'd be like, I got $1 million to make a movie, and let me spread that out however I want. And if I had $2 million, then I can just spread it out even better. So you would think the overall quality, but that's not necessarily how movies works. You could spend $1 million making the whole movie, and then you could spend $5 million doing one thing, paying for one musical right, paying one actor, paying just distribute, so it's just I guarantee the whole rest of the movie had to been pretty cheap, but there is somewhere in this movie that cost half the budget. I guarantee it, like one thing that cost half the budget, but I don't know what it is, but it's got to be because they didn't have there's no way they had $5 million going in to just like spread it out. Like, okay, let's go towards, let's put, $500K towards the costume budget. Like, there's no way. They were strapped for a lot of stuff, and then it had to be distribution or something. Because, to be fair, I mean, Bronson was pretty popular. I mean, in our circles, because we're film nerds, I guess. But it's like the fact that this movie did, I don't know how well it did financially here, but it was like, obviously it won the poll. Like, people know about it. So maybe... I mean, obviously, it's an English-spoken film, but it's like Danish, So maybe, like worldwide distribution, some fuckle up there. But I don't know. If anyone out there in podcast land knows,
I bet
if Nicholas Winding Reif, sorry for butchering your name, but you're a dedicated fan and you listen to all of our podcasts, let us know.
Right around that.
That was my biggest thing. I'm like, I have a harder time giving it the benefit of the doubt knowing that, but also I'm like, yeah, for all I know, Mads Mikkelsen is like a diva, and he's like, I'm the greatest actor, and he took it. He cost $3 million or something. I don't know.
Huh? Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe he paid himself. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, he seems like a cool guy, and I like him in pretty much everything I've seen him in. So, you know what I really like him in? It's not even a movie. Not even a movie. Death Stranding, the video game.
Oh, he's in that? Oh,
and
that's cool.
he is awesome in it. He's so good.
It's funny. It said that this
Hunt.
movie is the inspiration for God of War, but I swear, I thought God of War came out first.
I'm pretty sure the inspiration for God of War was,
yeah,
the Greeks first and then the Norse second.
Yeah, right.
No, that's cute. Somebody that said that. I guess maybe it's like because God of War came out in like 2002, the original
That's
one.
What I thought,
but it's all like Greek mythology, and then are the people of Valhalla Rising trying to be like and then they watched our movie and they realized Vikings are cool, and so they wanted to do Norse mythology, and that's what inspired the new God of War 10 years later. Get a grip. Get a fucking grip.
Right.
Like, no way.
I mean, we had our Viking boom. We're still kind of I think a little bit in the ripple effect of it.
Vikings are always pretty cool, you know what I mean? Like the TV show when all like 2010s was the good. So this is like this is early for the Viking boom, I think. I felt like because I did feel like between, the last decade we got more Viking stuff, and then it was capped off with Northmen, and I feel like maybe we haven't seen anything or will for a while.
I know, right? I kind of feel like
there's like the shows. There's all the shows for it, but
and I'm thinking big screen too.
I'm good. I like Vikings, but I'm good.
God, I really wanted Northmen. Everything. See, that's the thing. That's where this movie, like Valhalla Rising, it does like three things right, and that to me, I'm like, I can't say I like it more. I just appreciate that he like stuck to his guns and he kept the pacing how it is.
Oh yeah.
And so it's very effective.
I just think
so with Northman, I kind of just wish there's like Northman didn't do anything wrong. I just think I just had too high of expectations. It's my own fault.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Northman, but they're just I wanted more. I wanted Edgar Skid to dig deeper, almost. Like I don't know, just because his pacing in Witch is so it's like this. His pacing in Witch is like not for a mainstream audience, and so like Northman, you just feel like he sold out, man. but he didn't, because it's like it's not a movie for mainstream audience.
It's not. It did not do well.
So
go listen to that episode.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know, man. I have a hard time looking past, because it doesn't feel as like, even if it was stylistic, it doesn't feel like it. I don't think there's a good reason to use Digital Blood in this way.
Oh my god, dude! The
I
Digital
can't.
Blood
that hurts me.
No,
man.
there's that scene. The scene when he breaks out of his chains for the first time, to run away. That whole, like, it's funny because there's one wound. There's like a person's really wounded, and it's all practical.
Well, the practical effects are great. You don't need to have blood spraying everywhere.
And then he like hits him with the axe, and it's the most like digital. There's no reaction to it. He doesn't react to blood because there is no blood to react to.
Oh, I'm 100%.
Buddy.
I'm pretty. It's definitely something like the fucking Action Movie Essentials pack. That's just like, it's just blood spray against a green screen, composited out on a 2D flat thing. Because it's like, I see the benefits of digital blood. Don't get me wrong. We've used digital blood because it's like
Scorsese uses digital blood.
Fincher uses digital blood. Same,
right. And that's the whole thing. I got nothing against it.
Because he shoots
really,
a billion takes and doesn't want to clean up a huge mess every time.
Right.
Which I get, you know what I mean? But it's like this movie didn't have a Fincher budget or a Scorsese budget, but they were doing so good with the practical that when that came out of there, and then it's just like, I don't know, just the look, the look and like the audio in this movie, like that definitely felt like they were leaning into it, because it's like sometimes the audio was like really weirdly distorted on like some of their voices and stuff, and it did have like an ethereal type like feel to it. Which I dug, but at that point it was just kind of grinding on me. But I don't know. Like, I do think if this movie just looked and felt better visually and audio, which is like, that's the fucking medium. Like, the pacing's good, but there's not enough meat there. Like, I can look past that shit if there's enough meat on the bones. Like, oh, I really care about the One Eye character. I don't give a fuck about One Eye. Like, I want him to win because he's my protagonist, and it's like I'm rooting for him, but it's like he doesn't even speak, and I don't know. That's
works.
fine.
That works.
That works.
I think
works.
like
I don't want him to speak. But
I do think the ending is a little flat and kind of like, I understand like we're supposed to interpret it, his sacrifice, to just, I don't know exactly what it's supposed to mean, but is it just as basic as like he sacrifices himself to save the kid? So it's kind of like, okay, cool. But like, I wish there was more.
Well, it feels like
narrative on his end. Like, why does he give up the fight?
It feels like they don't care about the narrative. It feels like they are more interested in telling a story about like, more of a like mythological type or like a metaphorical type story that's like, oh, this is actually like legend, and this is not really, you shouldn't take it so literally that this is what's happening. It's more like, oh, this is like he's like the guardian angel, or he's Odin or whatever. But it's like, it feels like a crutch, but I can't say because I don't know enough. It's like, I don't know. Well, it feels weirdly pretentious, where it's just like, no, you just don't get it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, no, there's like a.
But he's stuck to his guns, dude. I don't know. That's the
what.
That's
but
where
what
like,
was his guns? What is his point?
I know, but it really, yeah. I'm so conflicted because I love the visual and I love the pacing, and so like those two to me, I'm kind of just like, well, it doesn't really matter. Like I'm glad that they didn't give him a like flashback backstory or
same.
a true, you know, if they gave him like a true backstory.
No,
that
I'm
would've
not.
been,
I'm not
like,
upset that
that's
there's no like quote unquote like big deep characters, but that would be something for me to latch onto to look past
Right.
what I think is a horrible visuals.
Yeah, I mean that's where it is. It's like
I don't know.
kind of
Like sometimes this movie sometimes it looks really cool because it's like again like you said, the framing, like some of the shots do look good, but every shot would have looked better had they not been like fucking with like in post being like, yeah, well what if we just like crank the saturation up in this scene, crank the desaturation down at this scene somewhat arbitrarily, let's blow up the contrast and make the sky all blown out. But like not, it feels like it wasn't on set, it was like done in post, which is just a weird choice in my mind that doesn't serve what the story is trying to tell. And that always it just distracted me, you know, because it's like,
Yeah.
I think I'm just bummed because it's like I really, like you, liked a lot of this movie. I liked the vibe, I liked the pacing, I liked the atmosphere. I just kept being like, oh man, if this is just like a little bit done differently in another way, it just felt kind of amateurish, and it bothered me. I don't know.
Yeah, right. No, I definitely see that. I kind of want to go back and watch Bronson now to see how that feels, because I had this movie, like, you know, the memory of this film, it didn't seem as digital because I saw it in that age. So
True.
I wonder how Bronson
that's fair.
compares too. But
Bronson does feel digital to me. It feels like DVX, like almost like fucking just like some old like.
And
like
I bet that's what
tape.
Pusher is shot on. Like,
Oh,
honestly,
guaranteed.
You know, it's like
It looks like it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's cool because that's the thing. It's like, you know, I'm all about using the tools that are available. And, you know, this is the era, 2009, like this era right around 2010s is when like digital started looking pretty good. And this movie sometimes looks good, but I feel like they were scared. And so they're like, oh, we got to do all these weird post effects to like cover the look of the digital. Which ended up just like accentuating it more, made this movie feel digital.
I wonder if they did that because that was available. Like I said, like this kind of is a product of its time.
Oh,
I
for
feel
sure.
I feel like they had all of this new, like, you know, Apple or whatever, Mac just like dropped all this like new, you know, like whatever the MacBook Pro came out, and they were like, holy shit, like look at what just comes with like these like, you know, like movie editors that you can just do now, you know. And so I wonder if they kind of leaned into it a little bit more, you know, and I wonder if it would have been different. And I can imagine, like, that's why, like, Aguirre is it's such a hard movie to compare any of this to, because that was shot by, like, a literal madman with just, like, true, I mean, everyone has passion, but he's got, like, this weird, like, love affair with film.
He's got something, man. I don't know what
like,
Herzog's got, but he's got
and like
something, and it gives him an ulcer, you know, whatever it is.
And I think that's also like this movie doesn't have the true, like, it's weird. You can feel the passion when Herzog makes a movie because he like has no regard for anybody. And so where this movie, I felt like they were like, you know, they were probably shooting. They probably took them like, you know, 30 days to shoot this. And it was probably more fun, and like, you know, there was probably a lot more safety and stuff. And so, I don't know. I feel like for what we got like.
I like all the stuff them on
decent.
the like. That's the thing. It's like I like all the scenes. I like all the stuff before they set out. I really dig the boat and like them in the mist, like lost in the mist. I think that's all really cool. And even when they get to you know, this like untamed wilderness, I really like all the flow, and I really like the like. I don't care. I don't know.
But I can see that, dude. Just
soured.
all it has to be.
Soured.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Digital can really ruin it. I mean, it takes away. I mean, that's been like our argument forever.
Well,
is like, it's like, you know,
if
film.
I need to know about that budget because like with
I know,
with the
right.
$6 million budget, if they would have shot this on like 16 millimeter or something, it's like imagine because it's just all earthy and like they just took out the digital blood because every time you don't need it because they have such good practical effect. They disembowel a guy and it looks great, and then they smash the one dude's head in and his brains are coming out and everything. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just some weird choices and a lot of it in post. I want to address one thing. I wonder if he'll bring it up. I'm saying Travis out in the world right now. We'll listen to his message here in a minute, but I wonder if he'll bring it up in his review or in his comment or whatever, because he said on his letterbox, that's what made me change it. Long story short, the version that I started watching had a weird audio problem that it was like ticking, and I couldn't figure out if it was my computer or what. And I'm like, man, there's no way this is intentional. So I had to like find a different version and fix it, and I did. And I was like, okay, cool. No harm, no foul. It just took me longer because I had to find a new version of this movie. But Travis watched the one that was on the Plex before I fixed it because he mentioned the ticking sound in his letterbox review. And I was like, oh, no, man, because that drove me crazy.
Now,
I was literally being
now
like,
I'm curious.
I'm
curious. Was it like ticking? Did it seem intentional in the movie, but like kind of weird?
There's no way it could have been. Like, at first I was like, what is happening? I'm like, there's no way, is this part of the soundtrack? Because it would kind of like fade in and fade out sometimes.
God, I wonder what it was. Yeah.
I'll show it to you. I mean, I'll show it to you later. But like it,
yeah.
It got to a point where I'm like, if this is intentional and this is them part of the movie, I won't finish it. I was like, I gotta text Jordan and be like, this movie's unwatchable. Like, I don't know how Travis did it. I would not have finished it. I would not have done it.
Well, why he still gave it a pretty good review for having like.
I would have just
audio
set
shows.
it to like a silent film, just had the subtitles on, and then I just would have listened to like a all instrumental like Doom soundtrack or something.
Yeah.
Watched it that way.
Yeah, I mean that really could be that. Honestly,
Yeah.
It could be watched that way. I mean, that is intentional. It really actually has no like Foley or like I mean it's got like some of the creaking ship and some of the like rustling and some of like the
It's
having
very
like
heavy on.
I do like
the score, which is cool.
Right. Yeah, it's heavy on the score, and I guess they use some it's like weird. There's like drone throughout the whole thing, and then there is like environmental sounds where it like cuts to like whistling wind and like rustling trees and stuff, and that all layers in there to like a nice little audio soup that I enjoyed. But this movie really could have been a silent film, and like. I feel like the soundtrack. So, dude, originally Mogwai was gonna do this soundtrack, which I don't know if you know Mogwai, but I fucking love them, and I was like bummed that they didn't get to do it. So I think it would have been 10 times better because the soundtrack to me is like I tried listening to it on its own, and it's just not.
It's all right.
It's just not there.
I mean, it's ambient. You know what I mean? It's like weird
it's almost
industrial.
Yeah, it's almost
doomy, like a little bit
too thin.
Yeah,
a little too thin.
It is.
But
I'm only vaguely familiar with Mogwai because of you, and
right.
From what I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. See, I want to make a movie like this style, this pilgrimage, but I want to do like a heavy instrumental Doom soundtrack with like fucking stop motion wizards going across like this like desolated plain or something from like these like with these crazy beasts and stuff. Like that's what I want to see, a Phil Tippett's style.
I know, right?
Can you imagine?
I mean, you say stop motion.
This
I'm
is the
there.
second
I'm already done.
of the podcast of every podcast where we just gush about how we wish everything was stop motion.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I got a couple Reddits, so.
Well, let's hear them.
So first and foremost, Clones of People 2 says, my first watch of this, I'm not a huge Winding Rife fan. Bronson was good, but I disliked Drive. However, I like Mads Mikkelsen. Hate is such a strong word, so I'll say I really disliked this. It was just so dull and so slow. The biggest flaw in this film was that I felt completely apathetic towards everything. I didn't care about the characters or their journey, and I felt that the director wasn't giving me anything to care about. The film may have had a deeper underlying message and theme to ponder, but I didn't care enough to try to interpret it. I feel the director tried to make a film with multiple interpretations, but because the film was so lacking in narrative detail, for me there was nothing to explore. The score was all right. Overall, different enough to be memorable, but not for good reasons. 4 out of 10.
Oof. All right. Okay.
Thank you for commenting. I agree with that last paragraph about where it's just like, it feels like it kind of wants to have these other messages. Again, with the whole Odin thing, because that seems like that's so a Viking warrior with one eye. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like so Odin, but like I'm trying to, like, I want to be like, why? Like, what does it mean? Like, is this supposed to, what's this supposed to symbolize? But then I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to go read about Norse mythology anymore. It's so
I know,
muddy.
right?
But
And that's, I mean,
it
and that's
does
where
feel
it's
like it's
watch-
kind of just, you know, like,
But I feel like Northman leaves me at the same questioning.
yeah.
I just think like their story is more anchored because, you know, there's like lineage involved and, you know, a romantic tie involved, but then in the end it is like it's honor.
Yeah, you know,
essentially.
I'm there for
that's-
the, you know, it's like,
Right.
I'm all for your opinion. I'm glad you watched it anyway. Clones of people too.
I know, yeah, dude. No,
But
yeah.
you know, and it's like I did like some of the themes and stuff. I like this type of movie. I just feel like if I want that, I could get it elsewhere. More juicy. This comment actually got me. I wrote it on the thing, but I got the message on my phone that, you know, I had a Reddit comment or whatever, and I just like glanced it, and I only saw the first sentence, and I was like, oh, cool. And the first sentence, he fucking got me. It was Turbo13 says, wow, I loved this movie. And when he said that, I was like, oh, right on. And so, but his full message says, wow, I love this movie. Said no one ever. He's like, I didn't know they made a medieval sequel to Aguirre. Same story, different raft. The blood is a little less red. I actually might have to change my rating of Aguirre to make room for this masterpiece of awfulness. Everything about this movie was trashed. The sound design was so cheesy and felt slammed and rushed in. The pace was super, super slow. It was hard to get into the characters. The super cheesy editing of the red flashes. At least Aguirre was technically sound. This was horse poo. They should have taken notes from Shrek. 0.6 out of 5 this week. Brutal.
Brutal, dude. He just tore it down.
I know. I
mean, that's fine. I
no,
don't
this,
know what it is.
This
It's like,
movie
this
is not
I
for
don't know
everyone.
what I would.
but
I don't know what I would give this movie. That's the tough thing. Is like I personally, I like how dirty it is, and I love I love that he just stuck with the pacing. So
I love that they're
that's
great.
the
See,
thing.
I like the slow pacing too. I
Right.
feel like originally,
And I'm not-
while I was watching it,
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like no one has the patience for movies these days. And I was like, even myself, I was enjoying it, but like my fucking ADHD, I'm like trying to fiddle with shit. I like literally have fiddle shit on my desk so I can watch movies without like messing with shit. And like, I like the slow pace. And I do feel like these days, like a lot of people have a hard time sitting down and watching a movie, period, let alone a movie that's like all symbolic and about like this journey and it's all like mythical, and it could have been a silent film because there's no like
Right.
substance to like the actual
Right.
quote unquote narrative, right?
Right,
Which
no.
is not necessary in cinema. You know, you can rely on like an atmospheric mood piece, you know. But whatever, you know. I just think it's funny that he
Tore it to
hated
shreds.
he hated Aguirre though. So
Which
And
is
this-
funny. I mean, I kind of assumed that I thought like if anything, this is like
I
this
liked the
movie's
red
metal.
flashbacks too. Yeah, it is. I liked the.
I love it. I loved how
like
it's
the
like
red flashbacks.
the red flashbacks. So it kind of lost it towards the end. At least
Yeah.
I'd have to see it again to like kind of.
It
fully
jump
grasp
scared you. Do you remember
But
the
it-
jump scare?
It-
Where like is all super quiet and calm, and then it just like screeches, and it cuts to him with the profile of his red face for just like a second. But it jump
Yeah.
scared you just because like the audio, you're like, oh shit, because
Yeah,
it just
right,
like
right, right.
blows
No,
out
and
out of nowhere.
I thought that when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is to like to make sure you're paying attention. Like if you weren't,
to wake
you
you
were
up.
like kind of drifting off. But it's like I love the red because it's like the red's like super subtextual and totally like it's like confusing until like the scene happens, and then you're like, oh, that was like it's almost like he is a mythological being that like
Well, yeah.
has foresight, and you
'Cause
know so it's like
Maybe
you know,
he's
that's-
Odin, but
that's cool.
before I made that connection, I was, to me, he was like literally supposed to symbolize the essence of wrath, especially my
Right,
other
right.
favorite part. One of my favorite parts of this movie, and I'm a boner. I have a fucking hard on for these. Is the title cards, right?
Title sequences, yeah. Title cards
good-
are like that's
A
that's
good
how
title
we,
drop is what is like gets me wet, and it's just like they get there and they're just like it's like hell, like
this-
chapter
hell,
6,
yeah.
hell or whatever, and I'm like
Yeah.
hell, yeah, buddy.
Because it does. Is it 6? It was kind of weird. Though.
I
It's
don't,
like
I don't
weird
remember which
to,
one number it was, but
I don't know. Like I don't know. Yeah, I've seen a lot of movies like that, and it's like, I guess having multiple or 3 just feels like, you know.
oh, there's definitely like 6 minimum in this one.
No, there's right, of course. But I'm thinking like even Asteroid City had like 4
Yeah.
at least, right?
Yeah,
4 or 5. So
yeah.
it's like I don't know. Yeah. So I guess it's like it doesn't
like
have to
it
be
breaks
3. I
it.
just kind of.
It breaks it
Oh,
into
yeah.
like, you know,
Well, I guess Green Knight
Scenes.
does that too, dude. Oh, good.
lot of
yeah,
the-
good movie. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Because
like
Northman
my
does
narrative.
one of my favorite parts of the Northman. I
Oh,
said it
yeah.
in that episode. It's like the title drop of the Nightblade feeds or whatever. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
buddy.
that's
Like,
yeah, that's sick.
I'm there for that.
Yeah, title drops are like adjacent to my narrative
Well,
fixation.
And
my-
in this, it helps
my-
with the
my
pacing
narration.
because it starts
Right.
with wrath and it's about his like raw violence and his just need to survive, and it's like, and that connection with like old Viking culture. It's in your blood, they're warriors, blah blah blah. And then it's just like, but then it becomes like the men of God, and it's like they are constantly just just shown to be sort of buffoons, where it's just like there is no God, there's only rage. But then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so, but is he godlike? And then if there is no God, is it basically about nature taking back whatever? Is that what this about the natives like symbolize? Is that it's just like, you got your Christianity, you got your Norse gods and all that, but nothing matters in the face of the one true God, which is Earth, nature, taking it back. I don't know. And so it's just like, that's what I was kind of feeling, and that's why I kind of agree with Clones of People 2 said, is because it's like, there feels like there's all these like themes, but it doesn't like pick one. And it makes me be like, oh, maybe I'm just too stupid to be able to like, oh, well, actually, blah, 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 which leaves it open for many interpretations, obviously, but it feels like it does it on purpose. It feels like it's like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Like if we, did that. And I was like, it is cool, but
It's all cool. I think it's I think it's like don't.
it's all right. You like it more than everyone else. I'm
Don't beat
usually,
yourself up
you
for not
usually
understanding
don't.
it, but I don't fully. No, that sounds condescending, but it really is like it's like
I
you
don't think
really
there's
need
anything there to really
there's-
understand. That's the whole
I
thing.
know, but that's the thing. It is truly just up to your interpretation without having like I have like very minimal like historical context, if you will, or any kind of like education on this. But I think just like the feeling that I got from like just the pure violence and then like the tenderness that he has to like the kid, and then the like it's kind of cool because it's like it's all just luck throughout the whole movie. It's not like he's not mythological. He's not like all powerful. He's not like, he doesn't have like some kinship with like the natives there and the land and anything like that. He is just a product. He's a survivor. He truly does just survive. And so at the end, he's sacrificed, and that's kind of the part that's muddled for me. I don't know if it's his choice or if
Yeah.
it kind of like, it's like clearly it has to be his choice because he drops his weapons and walks into it. So that like shows it's his choice. But I'm also kind of like, I wish he was even more mythological, because the kid says like, we're going to go to the ocean and he's going to build me a boat. And I kind of wish that a boat just like slowly came out of the mist.
Just on the tree.
and
It was just in the tree.
as in the tree. God, that's so fucking sick. Dude, Agary's like one of the greatest
Agary-
movies
Agary
ever.
is good.
It's like, yeah. But anyways, it's like, I kind of wish there was more production for the end, like the climax, but it's fine. I enjoyed it. I'm a fan of this movie. I totally get, like, I thank you, Closer People 2, for commenting. I'm not trying to like,
Well, no,
blind your comments
that's
or
why
anything.
we
I
do.
don't-
That's
I-
why we do the podcast, is because you like it
right.
more. I just am like, to look at. If I look at it, it's like if I ignore all the other stuff, and I'm like, he's just a guy. He's just doing a thing, and it's about his relationship. Like, that makes it simpler. But then it's just like, why is that all that other stuff there if it doesn't want me to try and think like constantly that he's like this weird holier than thou. Like, what is the filmmakers actually trying to say? Because it's not about their story, really. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's like it's the outside influence that like sees him as his strength brings on that mythology.
Yeah,
like,
I get that.
Other people, that's
well,
what
and it's
like,
just like he's bubbling. He's bubbling inside. He's like this stone red, just always seeing red. Just this like. That's why I'm like, oh, he's like the personification of like wrath and rage and all this. You know what I mean? That all really works. But it's just like, I don't know. In our movie, if I just put like a lot of Christ imagery. And I'm like, people be like, why is there all this Christ stuff in here? That must have some deeper meaning. I'm like, yeah, it does. Like, it's up for you to figure it out, though.
Well, sometimes you can't just get away with that and just be like, this is it. They're crusaders, and that's it. I mean, that's kind of Gary doesn't really try to get any
Gary
deeper. Gary's just like,
because it nails the vibe stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I forgot you said Travis had a thing. I'm pulling it up.
Oh yeah. Let's hear from Travis.
What we haven't done in a long time is what was your favorite part?
Right. Oh yeah, I know how I said I wanted to get back to form, and then
we already kind of did. If you liked this, watch this. Watch Aguirre, watch fucking watch Northman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The similarities. El Topo. Check out El Topo.
Go, please, God. More people need to watch fucking El Topo, dude. And Hodorowski just needs to be consumed. But man, I don't know. Favorite part. I mean, the death scene is pretty brutal, and if you like brutality,
it starts off with kind of a bang.
Pretty sick.
You know what I mean?
I know the first before he gets on the boat, that like I'm like God, that had a lot of energy, and like I was like, oh man, I wish they could keep this going. And then the boat gives you like a breather, but it's a little too long, and then they're just kind of like lost, and then when they all get like forest madness.
Yeah.
I was a little confused by that. I mean, that's probably where like, if I had like a fucking history degree, I'd probably respect it a little bit more.
Sure, yeah.
Because that was something that narrative through line didn't work for me because I didn't quite understand why they were going crazy. But anyway, I mean, it was beautiful. It was fun to watch, and
yeah, I
liked the rock stacking. That was a cool scene.
Yeah, it was good.
There's symbolism somewhere in there, but
he's trying to find his peace. Because I did feel like there's something weirdly meditative about One Eye, and I feel like that's a lot of the like flashes to the like him and his stoic face with the red is like very much like it's just like bottled, like he's stacking the rocks to just kind of like. But then again, maybe he's a god. I don't fucking know.
I know, right? No, he's just a man, dude. You're calling him a god, man.
I don't know. I don't think I'm calling him a god. I think fucking Nicholas Winding is calling him a fucking god, not me. Yeah. I'm just picking up what he's putting down.
All right. Speaking of gods, let's hear Travis.
Well, my favorite part is probably the boat.
Oh yeah.
I like the boat.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what it is that, like, hidden with the violence and then like all the stuff on that. But like them, like if they could have done more with the boat. But like mix it up because I agree they couldn't have just done the same thing. But I like the idea of them just like lost in the mist and just like surrounded by unseen forces. Like who knows where they are out at sea. And I like the fact that it does. The men start treating him as like mythical, right? And he's like drinking the salt water, or you think it's salt water, but then it turns out it's fresh water from the river, which is like is a really fun realization moment. You know what I mean? And I've been reading The Terror, and it's all about like boats and stuff. So I'm like, it's clicking for me,
I could totally see that. And I think I wanted more from the boat because the boat seemed super cramped, but not shot. It wasn't shot cramped. It was just shot pretty wide and stuff.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel.
I see that. Yeah.
It was utilized in my opinion. But anyways, I do like the mist, the oppressive.
Yeah, some just like that it's like otherworldly, no wind and no vision. They're just like lost at sea. Like I don't know.
That's cool. There's no
fun.
wind. Yeah.
All right, you ready for Travis's?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Hey guys, Old Man Travis here. Before I get into this week's movie, I have an idea I want to share with you two. As Horrortober quickly approaches, I was thinking it'd be cool to see a poster of you guys surrounded by a character from each movie selected this year. Kind of like the posters I've seen for Stranger Things. and at the bottom you could have Patreon people's names as the credits or something. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to have a collection every year. Just an idea, though. Okay, so Valhalla Rising was a little of a letdown for me. Because it started out so violent and brutal, which is what I like in a Vikings movie, then its tone changed to something else. At times, One Eye was so quick to kill some of the Crusaders, but at the end just laid down without a fight. For me, completely ruining what could have been an amazing ending. It just seems to me that the beginning violence would turn some viewers off, and the lackluster finale would turn others off, thus not satisfying anyone. My question today is about the boy in the story. Do you guys think that he was human or some kind of Viking folklore spirit child? At times, he would appear not to be with the others, and as One Eye was so quick to defend him, at the end literally leaves the kid to fend for himself alone in a distant land. It didn't seem like a very noble thing to do, and if One Eye was a vicious savage, then why not go down without a fight? Thanks.
Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, thanks. Man. I like the idea. Dude.
The poster is a good idea because
poster, man.
I was looking at the old like calendars that I did.
Yeah,
and
I
have fun with
calendar.
those.
Yeah,
I should do a poster though, like make it like a movie poster every year. That is a fun idea, and then like with, something with the because last year I ended up doing a letterbox list with it, and that really helped. And so something like that. I'm mixing up this year. So thank you for the suggestion. And if you were a Patreon, I'd put your name on it.
I know. Yeah, Travis.
Thank you to our Patreons.
Yeah, all of you guys are
I'm
beautiful.
gonna put your name
Travis,
on a poster.
You rock. So
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I don't know. There's something with that kid, though, right?
I actually never really gave the kid much thought. I just assumed it's a stand-in because this movie's I think for, Ryfan's son or something that was born.
I like how greasy he is. That's
in memory.
I like that.
Or not in memory, but he dedicates it to his son, I believe.
Was that who it was? I was wondering who that. I was what relative that was.
I didn't clarify it, but it's probably what it is.
It's like his dead dad or something. It's like, I'm the son.
It really could be. Yeah, I guess he would be the son, huh? I forgot to look that up, but I was like, oh, I should look that up because I'm curious who that is. But then I made it because he had a kid on set. Anyways, he had his daughter during the production of this, but so it could be for his dad. But Travis, you know what, bud? I get it. It totally. I don't know. I think I can forgive the ending because I just wish there was the boat because they mentioned that he's like, oh, he's gonna build me a new boat. He's gonna get me a boat. He's gonna get me home, and so that was gonna be the.
See,
I could understand him sacrificing himself because the kid is quote unquote safe. But I think he sacrificed himself so that the natives would have just ignored the kid, instead of killing him to let him have safe passage.
See, that's what's great. I feel like I can't get on your guys' level at all because I feel like this movie is not literal at all. This movie is all metaphors all the time.
Sure.
That I'm like the kid, and him being a warrior, that doesn't matter. He put his shit down because he wants to be God or whatever. And it's the kid is he's either a kid that's just opportunistic and kind of clever and he takes over the role of oh, this is what One Eye is saying or whatever. Or, is he actually some sort of prophet? Is it saying something? Because this movie obviously wants to say a lot about religion. Is it this is what prophecy is someone starts just making up some shit and then suddenly they're buying their own bullshit and by the end of it he's totally preaching it? Does the kid represent innocence? Does he represent fucking hope? Optimism? Everything is oh, I'm going to get going where I'm going and we're blah, 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 So I don't know. That's the thing. It's I could see all of it, but I can't feel any one way about it.
Okay.
I like the kid though. I kind of wish there's a little bit more to their dynamic because I did think that was kind of good stuff. I liked especially the idea of this kid being oh yeah, I hear him, he speaks. It's I really liked that.
I feel like at the end it's they've just been traveling together so long that he really can speak for him,
Yeah, and then that's why
language,
that's part of the reason why One Eye is so quick to defend him is because this kid is not only just a kid, but it's is his mouth is like knows him, is the only person that even cares to pretend to know him, by speaking for him. They're a team, and just like a man with just legs and then a man with just arms is one man. Like
I
El
know,
Topo.
it's just one. Dude, I know, it's almost so good.
Anyway, that's Valhalla Rising. We're over, dude. I'm fucking. It's
we had fun here.
It's solid. It's I think it's kind of for this type of movie. It's definitely worth a watch, despite its flaws. Next week,
definitely a buy.
yeah, next week is a movie I know nothing about, other than it's a medieval movie apparently, and it's got Sean Connery in it. So, it's The Name of the Rose.
That'll be one of our first Sean Connery films.
Surprisingly, we keep saying one day we'll do some James Bond movies. Maybe we will one day.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, one day. I mean, one day we'll run out of enough stuff. We'll have to do James Bond. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Dude, The Name of the Rose poster looks fucking sick, dude.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Like I can't tell what vibe it's going for.
I can't either. Dude.
Like, is this a
I
wacky
can't even tell.
comedy? Is this? I've heard it's like a mystery sort of.
hell
So
yeah,
let's
dude.
see.
Is that Christian Slater? Fuck yeah, dog.
Yeah, I'm into it. So, I'm cool to go in something I haven't seen, kind of get an idea. So go check that out. Name of the Rose, 80s movie. We're watching that next week. And if you haven't already, go to the fucking Reddit and tell us what horror movies you want to watch in Horrortober, because we're gonna compile that list and get that going pretty soon, and then it'll be here before you know it. So, and then take a look at all the previous years, because there's almost 100 horror movies we've already watched.
I know, right?
So, maybe one day we'll do some repeats of classics. Check them out. There's enough.
Yeah.
But somebody already said Return of the Living Dead, and I'm like, oh, man, I do love that
I
movie.
mean, I
gotta find a way to sneak it in.
That's true. It's gonna be like the 31st today, because I actually sometimes don't watch the 31st movie because
True. Yeah.
we're already through them all.
I try to put like one of them on 31st. I always do an iconic one that it's like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Keep you guys interested.
yeah. So stay tuned. Check out that other movie. I gotta get something to eat.
All right.
I'm outie.
Bye.
Bye bye.